On the battlefield, I'm a warrior, ready to kill or be killed. But when I get back from a hard day of disemboweling my enemies, I enjoy nothing more than to open my castle doors and find a dungeon crate as my reward, designed for role players and tabletop gamers. Dungeon Crate is a monthly subscription box service with a treasure hoard of loot you can use on or off the battlefield. So what say you? Are you ready for postal glory? DungeonCrate.com. Let the adventure begin.
Well, hello and welcome to the DnD5e Podcast. It's been a while. My name is Wayne, and today my guest is, well, my wife. Hello.
Hi, I'm Laurie.
Hi, Laurie. Wow. We haven't put out a podcast, DnD5e Podcast, for a while. At first, I think Joe moved to Arizona. Joe on the go. Yeah, but he has got some stuff for us waiting, and we're going to be putting out more content on the DnD5e Podcast. But today, well, as most of you are secluded at home, or quarantined at home, I should say.
Self-quarantining.
Yeah, the one thing that we've been noticing is that, our particular, people are playing a lot more now online if they have to. Everybody's got to be away. And a lot of people now are getting more into Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing in general.
Right. And it seems like people are, that were players would maybe and didn't play with their family are now starting to teach their kids and or their whole families D&D, or they're just trying to figure it out together, because it's it's one of those games like Monopoly, only more fun than Monopoly. It can take a long time. You can take hours and hours to play a game, and you can pause and you can come back to it, and it's a whole adventuring party. So you got 4 or 5 people in your family, you can do a game.
There's been lots of people that we know. Actually, we've got a few friends whose families are playing now together as a family at home. Their kids have been wanting to get into it, so they were like, oh, okay. Even the the parents don't really know how to play, and the kids are learning and teaching them.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, because Wayne has been playing for 35 years, I don't know, a while. And I'm a new player, so I was like, I think that it would be fun to do a show where, a little bit of a series where you just kind of start me out. Tell me what to do, make it easy for me, because that's one of the things about D&D is that you can get really complicated.
Right.
Really quickly. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not super into a very, very complicated, multifaceted, layered thing at the beginning.
Right.
I just want to start out simple, and then I want to dig into it when I'm ready.
I think for most beginners, especially now, the books are intimidating.
They're intimidating.
They're huge. But again, we have to remember, just to start off with this conversation, these are handbooks. They're guidebooks. They're there you don't have to, and they're reference books. Which means that in order to play the game, you don't necessarily need to know all of it.
Right.
But they do with the new 5th edition. With 5th edition, when that came out, and they do this in every edition, but there is really in Chapter 1, there's a step-by-step character builder. We've talked about this before. And if you read just that Chapter 1, that will get you off to a great start. And you can just go down step by step. Take it like you will. And I think today what we'd like to do is show you how easy it is to roll up a character to get started.
Right.
And then as you want to kind of add more details to the character and really dig in, that's
flesh
the fun part.
Right.
And flesh it out.
Literally, not literally. Figuratively.
Figuratively, yes.
So,
and it's easy. So anybody can get to me, it's one of the most fun things to do is to build a character, which is why in the early days it used to be so devastating when you died, and there was a big chance of dying at lower levels in the earlier games. It seems like a lot of people now they don't really worry about dying so much, but we are going to create a first level character. Have you thought at all about what kind of character? We don't even need to think about the character. Say you want to build a character.
Okay.
We're going to start this first, and even if you don't have the books, hopefully this will be able to guide you through and you can go along with us.
Right.
I've got some 6-sided dice here. These are your standard square dice, 6 sides. And I've got, there's many ways to roll up your stats. And the one thing that you have to do to start out is to get numbers for your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, charisma. You want these. These are the basis.
Wisdom, and charisma. Okay,
yes.
Sorry, just checking.
Yep. This is just the. It's the core of your character. It's what's going to give you bonuses. What's going to be your flaws. What's going to be your strengths. Right. These stats are going to dictate what kind of bonuses you can get on your skills. Mm-hmm. These will, and it's super easy. The higher the number, the better.
Right.
You can do a point buy system, which means you can come up with they give you in the book regular stats: 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. And then you can put those around however you want. But we're going to roll them up today because that's fun.
Because that is fun. Can we go back to the very beginning?
Yeah.
We are using what's the name of this book?
It's the Player's Handbook.
Player's Handbook. And this is for all Dungeons and Dragons, period, right? So if I picked up a handbook, because I know these aren't super cheap either, right?
Right.
$50, $60
They're
or something?
$50, yeah.
So if I pick this up, though, I can play DnD5e, which is the most popular one right now for Dungeons and Dragons, as well as other levels. No, just
yes,
5e.
Yeah, this is just a 5e handbook. Each Dungeons and Dragons started, and then every few years they would upgrade, they would change it, and it would change the gameplay and the characteristics and how you did everything. What we're going to focus on today is 5th edition, and personally I like it because it's a nice combination of the past and what we've done. And it is fairly simple. It's all addition. It's really not much more.
Right.
And but this will also tell you how to role play. And sure, this will carry over into any other role-playing game that you want.
Right.
The only difference in the additions are some of the rules, some of the skills,
right,
how you do things.
Some of the detail stuff.
Just the detail stuff. But role-playing in general, which you have done with Nerd Babes and what, it is the same.
Right.
So
I like this. Okay, so I'm excited. We've got how many sets of dice? Just six-sided dice, which is just the regular square.
4 6-sided dice. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll these. The book says that you can roll the 4 6-sided and record the total of the highest 3 dice. And so you roll 4, throw the lowest one out.
All right.
And then you record that on this scratch piece of paper right here. So get a scratch piece of paper and roll it. Oh, that's a terrible roll.
Wow. I suck at this. I quit. Right. I'm done.
You're done.
Do I have to keep all those?
I'll let you re-roll.
Come on.
If nobody sees...
you guys literally...
Here, let's do it on the thing here. I know.
2 1s, a 3, and a 2.
That's the lowest you can do. Try those. Those are better.
Could I get any lower? I don't know.
There we go. That's better.
All right.
Roll right here.
So 6, 4.
So you've rolled the 4 dice.
Right.
Which one will you get rid of?
Well, obviously the smallest one, the 2.
The 2. So 6. You have 13. And write that down on your scratch paper.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to do this once, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Okay.
And then you get the option of placing those numbers, whichever, in any way you want into your stats. So if you're making a warrior, he needs to be strong. That's a big one. Warrior, strength, dexterity, or constitution. Those things are like warrior. So you want to put your highest numbers in those locations.
Sure.
If you're a wizard or warlock or somebody that uses magic, well, sometimes your wisdom would be the score you want to have the most in. 13. We're going to throw out the 1.
Again.
All right.
That's where I'm at, right?
So that's the second roll.
This is my...
All right, that's a 16. That's not bad. And this can be done before you even come up with anything else.
Right.
Before you come up with what kind of character class you want to play. Before you come up with anything else. You can just roll these numbers. And we used to just roll these all the time and just pick the best sets. And there we go. Right on. And so you've got 3. One more roll. Let's do one more. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Just do that.
As an aside, it's not super great. I feel like that's why people get mad at their dice, right?
Yeah, right.
All the time, because you roll for crap.
Yeah, you rolled an 8.
I rolled an 8
out of 4 6-sided dice.
Can I look at this as a way that it could be character development? So
absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit weak in X area, but that just means that I have to find ways around it, and it also adds depth to my character.
Mm-hmm. It gives you a way, yeah, and also you can increase your ability scores as you go.
Right.
As you go up in level.
Every level, right.
Now let's look at this too. The one thing I want to talk about the scores first off, and what I think people kind of mistake, is that adventurers, the character that you are creating, is not a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill person. Mm-hmm. This is an adventurer. This is somebody who's trained. This is somebody who's skilled, which means they're a little bit higher level. Think of them almost as a superhero, right? Not just your common everyday Joe. So common everyday Joe's stats are 10. That's your normal level, mid-level. That's you and me, probably around the 10 area. Some parts, might be a little higher. Normal humans is others.
If we slapped somebody, it would hurt.
Yes.
A little.
Right. I don't have an 8 strength, but I don't know. I mean, like, oh my gosh. So you have to look at it that way. 10 is the base, is normal. 10 is average. It you can get along with all 10s in an adventurer as well. So when you have a higher, like 16, think of that as like really advanced. That's advanced. 20, 16 to 20 is fairly advanced.
Like in Jumanji.
Right?
Most of the people were kind of like, there's a few that were like the, 16s, 17s, 18s, but then there's also, Jack Black. Mm-hmm. Big in some areas and not in every other area.
Right. So, whereas in that case, we remember The Rock he was the tank.
Right.
So he would have strength as his abilities, highest ability. Maybe he's got a good constitution or very,
he's unafraid of everything. Right. That's cool.
Then you've got the Jack Black character whose intelligence was higher. Like some of their intelligences were much higher while they're
Kevin Hart,
whose strength may be lower.
Things, but
the intelligence is higher.
Yeah, I like it. Okay.
And what you do is this is where the balance in the game comes from. So you're going to be able to have, multiple characters with different classes, and you can complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So now what we do is you've got your character sheet here. We've got one of the mini character sheet notepads from Dungeon Crate that we're using here, and this is just it's handy. It's a good way to just get your basic stats down. So, have you thought about what kind of person you want to be? What kind of job do you want your character to be?
Well, okay, so I think that so I have played before, and I do have another barbarian character, and that does kind of like go with I'm a little intense sometimes, but I was thinking that this time it might be fun to make a bard character.
Oh, right. Yeah. I like bards.
Right?
I love bards. That's great.
Okay. So I'd like to make a bard.
Okay, let's make a bard. So...
Also, I know very little about bards. I envision strumming a lute, but
everybody
that's
does.
it. I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know.
I would look at a bard like, they have a really good discussion of it in here.
It could also be like a poet. It could also be like somebody who's just
Chronicler.
like an orator, somebody who just is like, commands a presence and, has the room and is like...
Storyteller?
Right, a storyteller.
A storyteller is
And that'll be me. I'm not going to be a song singer.
Right.
I'll be a storyteller.
Be the storyteller. And the good thing with bards that I always like to think of is they're the ones that can go in for me when I play a bard. I like to go in and I play a thing. You can play anything like a drum or lute, any kind of instrument a bard has, or just telling your stories. You can go to the towns and get a gig somewhere is what I like to do. Right. Go to the taverns and say, all right, will they let me get up and I'll tell a story and see if I can make any coin.
Right.
So we've got him coming in. So that can be your thing. And what you do is you go around and you record these epic tales of adventure that you get to pass on. That's the whole point. So bards are great.
Right.
So let's look at what you do next is you'll end up going to the player's handbook and go to the bard character class. And it's in alphabetical order. So if you were smarter than me, there we go, Bard College. So the one thing you're going to want to do, now that you have your stats, you have not placed them into your categories yet. So you want to kind of look and see, what does the bard rely on? Well, it's a bard, an entertainer. What characteristic do you think would be the highest? Charisma.
Right?
Yes. And you can look down here, and it'll tell you right here, charisma modifier. Yep. Your spell attack modifier is modified. So charisma is the thing that all bards need. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to put your 8 there, but I would put maybe your...
17? My biggest one?
Yeah, put 17 in your charisma.
Okay.
All right. The other thing that you might like, I guess, if you want to be bards are also very good fighters, so you still want to have an average
Really? Okay.
strength. Now let's look at the character. Now what does everything mean? So charisma, we kind of know what that means, right?
Right.
And this is all in the book, but if you're just new and you don't have the book,
Right, I know. But
charisma is your, well, and especially if you're a younger player and you really haven't used that word or you don't know what charisma is, it is your ability to draw, how are you perceived by others?
Right, exactly.
Entertainers and people that, wow, I just love watching them on TV. That's
right,
because they
charismatic
got good charisma.
person. Like they draw people in. They're
Right. Strength
attractive,
is,
but not like necessarily in a physical way of like, wow, I really like talking to that person.
Right.
They're always listening to me. I just feel good around them. That's like charisma.
right, and that's another thing to look at
Personable.
too. If your charisma score is low, doesn't mean that you're a hideous beast. I mean, you
No.
could be, but it doesn't mean that. It just means maybe maybe you don't like talking to people.
Right. Maybe you're a lot more introverted and you just rather like not.
Right. So look at it more like introvert and extrovert.
Right, exactly.
Instead of how handsome you are. Now in
Right.
4th edition, they had an extra stat that was comeliness.
Right. And that's just, you're pretty.
You're pretty. So yeah.
Okay.
Let's look at, you have strength and dexterity. Dexterity, again, is how well you can
Right, exactly.
move,
Hand-eye
use your arms,
coordination.
hand-eye
is,
coordination.
Strength is just,
Constitution, how internally strong are
Right,
you?
exactly. How's your immune system right now, folks?
Right. Yeah. Intelligence is pretty, everything else is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, but there's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. So intelligence is smart. Wisdom is like, or intelligence
smart.
can be book smart,
Right.
and wisdom can be street smart, or
Exactly.
just being able to take that intelligence and apply it to daily life is
Exactly.
wisdom.
Intelligence and
Right?
wisdom, do work together that way, because if you look at it like, intelligence, you can raise your intelligence by reading a book
Right,
and still get killed in the alley.
right, exactly.
But your wisdom is what you've learned from the challenges that your character has faced.
right,
And that also, the wisdom has things to do with things like a cleric, less of a spellcaster, but sometimes, we need a high wisdom to do some of these spells. The same with the intelligence. You have to be smart to learn all these things. So intelligence is also pretty decent for any character, like the bard.
sure.
All
Or
right,
any
so
person.
strength.
I mean,
Well, let's start
So
from your
strength-
next number here.
So
What do
you
you want
think
to do?
strength is fighting is another thing that's a big deal?
Yeah,
Because no matter what, you're going to get into a brawl.
Right. And you want to be... I think a bard is a great character to have a balance between the actual physical prowess in combat and a spellcaster.
Right. Okay, so I was thinking that I want to use maybe wisdom as my next highest.
There
Because
we
I
go.
feel like that's a big thing.
So yeah,
You
dexterity
know?
and constant dexterity. If you are using any
That's
ranged
like,
weapons, you want a high
I'll-
dexterity.
Yeah, and dexterity is another one. Okay.
Now what you've got left is your 8 and your 12.
What's
Constitution will
that's
help
just
you
like-
in your armor
right,
class
Right. So I'm gonna
and your defense, but
that'll
you can
be
raise
bad.
that up.
So I'm just gonna do the intelligence. Right.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
So
read
I
it.
chose my highest, 17.
We'll just start from there. Strength is
Strength is 16. Dexterity is 13. Constitution is 8. So I'm kind of sickly.
Sight of blood will make you vomit.
And intelligence is 12. Wisdom is 13. And charisma is 17.
Yes. All right.
And this is
Level 1. Now, at the beginning of the book, you have, and here's the one thing about 5th edition that I always like, is that they used to have it where each stat had its own row of pluses and minuses. Well, ability scores and modifiers are on page 13 in the player's handbook. Up in the right-hand corner, you're going to see it's the same for all of them. Doesn't matter. So they've made that just a...
Streamlined it.
So your bonuses and your modifiers are going to be based off of this little chart. Super easy. So you have a 16 strength, which means you get a +3. On this character sheet thing, you can write that right above the skills, right above the stat.
Strength.
Strength, yes, is +3. So anything that's 16 and 17 is a +3.
Okay.
You've got a couple of 13s. We look down here at +1 for 13s.
Okay.
12s and 13s, so
Okay.
There we go.
And then an 8.
An 8 just doesn't get a bonus. It gets it gets a -1.
Oh no.
Yeah. So if you ever have to make a roll or a save for your Constitution,
Right.
Or like poisoned or anything like that, yeah, you're gonna have to take a minus instead of add. So now you can see that they're all the same. So every number just has its own stat. The higher the number.
That seems pretty easy. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. And have gotten a little confused in gameplay on this sort of thing. So what does that mean exactly, that +3? So...
Well, the +3 means it's a modifier. So anytime, say, that you want to... say, let's take the strength.
Right.
You roll your d20, which is the large round one.
Right.
You roll this to attack somebody, and that's your base number. So I just rolled a 12.
Right.
Now I'm attacking with my sword, so that's a strength-based
Right.
thing.
Weapon.
So you always will add your strength
So then,
modifier to it.
Anytime I roll that, whatever I get, I just add 3 to it.
Yep.
Okay, so it's always that, 15.
Right.
Okay.
And what that does, it just gives you bonuses for being more than, your average
Better
Joe.
than average. Okay.
Right. As you go up in level, you're going to be able to raise your ability scores,
Right.
which will raise your modifiers.
Gotcha. Okay.
Same thing. So
See,
you can
that
get out of
makes
this
sense.
-1 on the Constitution. If
Right. That
once
makes
you go up in
sense.
levels. So the same thing, let's see here, Bards. So
And
after
these are
this-
things that I just need to remember.
Right.
Right.
And
I've had really gracious people be my DMs and help me out, and everybody else at the table has been great about that too.
Yeah.
So, but I need to get better. So this is good. This is
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
well, on the new one here, let's see here. So what else would you do? Ability score point cost, ability score summary. So yeah, on page 12, it does give you a nice breakdown of all the ability scores and what they do. So let's see here. Proficiency bonus. So for a first level character, a proficiency bonus shows that you are actually you've been trained in whatever your
You're
weapons are.
proficient
You're
in-
proficient in it, and it starts off at level 2. It's just +2
I'm
for
level.
any first level character.
Okay, so +2 proficiency. So when does that come into play?
Well, your proficiency bonus, it applies to the numbers that you'll be recording on your character sheet. Attack rolls, using weapons you're proficient with. Attack rolls with spells you cast. Ability checks using skills you're proficient in.
Okay.
Ability checks using tools you're proficient with.
Okay.
If you're a thief, then you'll be proficient with your thieves' tools.
Right.
Saving throws you're proficient in.
Right. Okay. So these are things that based on what I'm proficient when it says in the book about bards, right?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
So just think if you were say you're a wizard, you're not proficient in a broadsword.
Right.
And you find one and you can use it.
Right.
You're just not proficient with it, which means you're going to have a less chance of hitting than, say, somebody that was trained with it.
Right,
You can
exactly.
still use it, but it's just, you're not proficient with it, so it's not going to give you that +2.
So if I'm proficient in something, let's go back to the strength thing. So I've got a 16 in strength +3,
Yeah.
and then if that's a proficient thing for me, then I could add 5 to every roll. Is
Right.
that right? Okay. All right. Okay.
So say for your attacks and spells down here, it's showing that you want, say you pick a longsword for your weapon or whatever weapon you want. You can then put longsword and the damage, so that the attack bonus would be +5.
Right.
The damage bonus would be +3,
Yeah.
I believe,
Okay. Awesome. I like
because
it.
of your strength. You're going to get a bonus on your on your attacks rolls on that. So okay.
All right.
Okay, so we've got those down. Again, your initiative, your speed will depend on what kind of person you are. Are you a human? Are you an elf? And there's all sorts of things go along with that.
Right. And this is all in the book.
This is. Right. So we'll pick this up later as far as fleshing out what kind of character you're going to have.
Right,
But
this is
this
just
really
the
covers the just the ability scores. Let's just take them in little chunks. So you can continue to do this. It's really fun. Take your your dice, your 4 of the D6s, and come up with some ability scores. Again, you can point by and make it easy. But then you can that'll give you some practice in learning how to just roll up characters fairly quickly. Once you get done with your stats, your basic stats that every single character has, that's when you go deeper and you figure out what are some of the fun special abilities I get as a bard. And then what are some fun special abilities that I get as an elf?
Right.
Or a human.
Right.
Or whatever. So, but right now we're just going to stop it here with the working with the ability scores. Very simple, very quick, very easy. And I think there are a lot of, if people are like, well, how am I going to get those, all the information if I don't have the player's handbook? They do. Wizards of the Coast has a free PDF download that you can download. I believe they still have it. That will give you all the things that you need just to get a character built and some background stuff. It's not as detailed as this book. It'll have character classes in there and the rules for them. But
if you just want to try out the game, just see
what
you're doing, or again, like you're just getting started, you're like, hey, we're hanging out, we have nothing to do, let's do this. You can download it for free and then order it later once you're completely hooked.
Well, let's get... And actually, we forgot to do, we can go over the armor class, initiative, speed, and hit points and everything later. I just wanted to talk about the stats this time.
Right. No, this is good. This was really helpful, Wayne, honestly.
Yeah, because now I want to get ahead and complete it. I'm like, wait, we got another show to do. We got to do this. But I think it's good to understand exactly what those stats mean.
Right.
And the book has some really good descriptors of it. But, again, some people may not know what Constitution, how that relates into a character. They may not know what the charisma, why that's even in there. So this is what I wanted to kind of discuss today.
Yeah.
Strength definitely dexterity is great for people that use ranged weapons like a bow and arrow, because instead of your +3 for the strength, you use your +1 for your dexterity here. Because now you're not using strength to fire an arrow.
Right. I've got to aim. Yeah, it's like hand-eye coordination.
Right.
Plus.
Whatever. If you were a thief, your dexterity needs to be up there too. Right. It's great. So
picking locks, etc.
Mm-hmm. So this is something that needs to be, and people do the point by, but it needs to be thought about pretty carefully.
Okay, so Constitution, I want to talk about that a little bit. Whenever I hear the word Constitution, I automatically assume how hardy you are. Like you can withstand, everybody else gets sick, but I don't get sick,
Right.
I've got a great immune system. I've got a great, I just... like those people that I could eat anything and I never get sick off of anything because I just have an iron stomach, that kind of deal. That's what I think of when I think of Constitution. Is that what you're meaning? Or is it more than that?
No, it is that.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is that.
You can chop my arm off and I'll be like, dude, that really sucks. But blood loss, I'll get over it.
Kind of.
That's a bad example. That's a bad example.
No. So you get poisoned.
Right. Yeah.
There's something in this cave that is like a creature that has a stench for its defense. Right. And you walk up on it, and you're about ready to go attack it, but you have this awful smell. So much so you're gonna retch. Now, if you retch, that's gonna take a turn. That's gonna keep you from attacking.
Oh, but if I have a strong constitution, I'll be like, dude, I am not throwing up. I'm gonna take care of it.
Right. What the Dungeon Master will do is say, okay, well, you smell this horrific, gut-wrenching smell, and it makes you want to vomit, or it might start to make you poisoned.
Yeah.
It might be maybe it's toxic fumes. Well, what's your Constitution bonus? Okay, well, I've got this. So you will roll a Constitution saving throw.
Gotcha.
Using the bonus that's on there. So you would be a -1, so you immediately throw it.
Okay, no, that's good. I like that. That helps define it better for me. Because I was a little like, well, I don't know. That seems weird. Like, why would you just have random stuff? Like, I don't get colds. I don't get flus. I don't get all that stuff. But it's more than that.
It is. And,
I see it. Okay, I like that.
And the cool thing is that the saving throws are based on your stats too. It'll say make a strength saving throw, dexterity saving throw, make a wisdom saving throw, or a wisdom check is another term they'd use. Make a constitution save. Mm-hmm. And all these, and also in all your skills, since all the numbers are the same for every for every number, 17 is always a +3.
Right.
You have a list of skills down there that you're going to be using your stats for to see if you get any bonuses. The skills are all based off of these stats, which means, say you've got a thief and he's got sleight of hand. So he's want pickpockets, right?
Right. Well,
maybe for your warrior, his dexterity is normal, it's fine. He gets maybe a +1, but maybe your thief now has, like, you have Oh, no, you don't. You have a 13. So we'll just say that a thief might have like a 17. Very high dexterity.
Right.
Well, sleight of hand is a dexterity-based skill. So you will get to add +3 to that, or whatever your plus is, to that specific skill. So what they do with that is that kind of helps make your character's skill sets different based off of your actual statistics of your character.
And because I'm proficient in that, I would be able to add even more.
I believe so.
Right?
Now, if you look at page 13, it's going to give you choose race first as the first part of your build. We did not do that. So feel free. I don't like to choose the race first necessarily. I like to feel it out because there are bonuses for that. The second one they have is choose a class. We have done that.
Class E.
And then level, yes.
I don't know.
I am, yeah. Super classy.
Super classy.
And then we're just going to, it
race,
says level.
a class.
Yep, and the third one is determine ability scores, which we did that. And step 4 is describe your character. Now, they got really into really getting in the backstory of stuff. We'll go over that later.
Right. So should I choose my race and my...
I think you should choose a race. We could choose a race now.
How many races are there?
There's a bunch.
I know, that's what I mean.
A bunch. So maybe we should hold off on that. We're just going to go over the statistics today.
Right.
And how you can get your ability scores rolled up or chosen. And what they mean.
Right.
And how they do this. So hopefully that you've learned something on that. Next show, we're going to go over the other stuff, I would say, on the sheet itself here. So we will be going over steps 4 by describing the character. And we will go through and
choose a race, choose a class.
That'll determine your armor. That'll determine.
Yeah, I do get a little confused on that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to go through this next time.
Cool. All right. Well, we've gotten this far. If you want to dig deeper or you have some questions on that, you can go ahead and email us at DnD5e Podcast at gmail.com. And that's a D, the letter N, and D. 5, the number 5, and the letter E. And then we can go over more of that. I also have a lot more podcasts up here. If you scroll back down, you can see we go through character classes in deep about different character classes. We've got some interviews on there. But for this one, again, we're going to do this. It's quarantine teaching moments.
Right, totally. I like
right?
this.
Teach Laurie to play D&D.
Yeah, I feel like this is really beneficial. Thank you.
By the end of it, you should be able to roll up a character all by yourself.
Right.
Brand new beginner player.
Right. Because that's a fun thing that everybody likes to do. Everybody likes to have a lot of characters at different levels or whatever that they can play, right?
No, some people do.
Yeah.
I happen to have a lot, yeah.
No, I feel like that's a thing.
Yeah. All right, so cool. We're going to stop here. Again, you guys, thanks for listening. Mm-hmm. And we're going to continue our series on our beginner series for the quarantine time here next week. Mm-hmm. And if you want some of these things, we talked about the character sheet notepad, well, go over to dungeoncrate.com, hit up the treasury, and you can get your own stuff, and I will ship it to you right to your door. And next week we're gonna go back over we're gonna continue to flush out this character and see.
Right. See how it turns out.
Yeah, let's see how this bard turns out. Maybe we'll have Matt draw an image of it or something.
Oh,
and
yeah,
once we get it all flushed out,
right.
And you read a lot, so this helps to really, you can kind of take some time to let the character simmer in your head. Like,
right.
How is it gonna differ from your own personal character, your own personality?
Right.
Some people just play themselves, which is not always exciting.
Right.
It's not challenging, so let's play something.
Kind of what I've been doing before, just, whatever, is like, because I have an acting background a little bit too, is I've just been sort of doing me, but like a over-the-top version.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So instead of just being like assertive, I would be like actively aggressive. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you're acting aggressive. That's all an act. I get it, yeah.
You know what I mean, though? Like, because it was still me, because I feel like it's a little bit easier to kind of get that. But it was just like over the top, like a big and bigger, more. Now,
for these new players that are listening, say for, if you're a parent and your kids are wanting to get into this, how did you feel when you first started? It was intimidating, but once you got going, I want to reassure people, especially kids or parents, that to play this game, once you get going with it, I mean, tell me your first experience when you got it.
Well, I do feel like I kind of had a leg up because I do have an acting background. like, that sounds so fancy. That's not really it. I just mean that I was like, my small town had a really robust, really tiny community theater, and so I did a lot of productions there because, you know, it's a really small town, and like, what else is there to do? But I did have a lot of experience being on stage and learning different characters and learning lines and all of that stuff. And I'm also a writer and, like you said, a reader. So I'm really aware of characters and different characters and putting yourself kind of in that situation, whether you're reading or whether you're learning lines. So like, for me, I feel like it was pretty easy because I could just put myself like I'm reading this character. It's not me, it's this character. So it can be that. So it wasn't really that intimidating for me, but I think that other people who maybe don't have that background might be a little bit more like nervous about it or feel like dumb.
Yeah, and it is role-playing in general, so when you have to, that's why a lot of people will narrate their character. Well, right. Crom goes and does this, and then he does this, and he says this, and he goes over here. But some people will get way into it. They'll dress the part, and they will always stay in character. There's a nice balance.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to develop your character. But what's the point of developing your character so deeply if you just sit there and say, and it's talking about just your miniature on there. There's no substance in the conversation.
Right.
So it's bringing that character. Yeah, I got to bring it in there and say, oh, like so if somebody says, okay, I'm gonna you have to role play, so I'm going to bluff this guy to let us get on the ship. Well, a DM could say, okay, we'll go ahead and roll a bluff check. And you roll a bluff check. Great, boom. And you did it. All right, cool. You're on the ship.
But there's no story there.
There's no story. There's nothing to do with your character.
Story.
You may as well just have a bunch of numbers and don't care about any of the backstory.
Because I also feel like, and I feel this in books that I've read too, because I read a lot of fantasy stuff. I do feel like you are actively creating a story, a collaborative story with your group. And if you're just rolling and just saying, yay, okay, I did it, it's not the same. You're not adding anything to the character or to your character, but you're also not adding anything to the story. It's collaboratively building a story, right?
Right, yeah, as you would just like all these unique individuals.
You're all writing this adventure together. And if you're just like, whatever, okay, I'm doing X, and then I did X, okay, that's not adding anything to the story.
Right.
You got to add to the story.
Add to the story. Think about it like you are writing. You're the author, and this is a character. Now you're a writer. So when you're starting a story, you're starting to think about a storyline, and you're starting to put characters into it. How did those characters get developed? In a writer's mind, the same exact way, pretty much, is what you're doing right now.
That's what I think. I think this is super, super great.
You have to think about how strong is this character, and what's some of the weaknesses of this character that I can exploit and make it interesting.
Right, it adds depth to it. Again, the Constitution, me having a lower Constitution, I could see that adding a lot of funny elements into a storyline. Like you said, I go into this thing, and everybody else is fine, and I'm like heaving in a corner. That's funny.
Yeah,
because that's another thing is I really want things to be funny too.
Right.
You know, if you don't add humor into it, then I get bored real quickly. But if people are laughing and I can make people laugh, like, I like that. So.
Right. Oh, I just had a flash of, okay, so your Constitution is 8. Here's a good way to look at that. Remember in Back to the Future 3 where Doc was in the saloon and he took the shot before he was going to go do the showdown out in the street? And he sat there. And he immediately just, boom, fell on the ground. And the guy was like, that wasn't even alcoholic. No. But he just fell, boom. Exactly. One shot, sits there, boom, on the floor. I can imagine, going into a tavern and like, oh my gosh, do not buy the Bard any drinks.
Right. See, now that's funny. And that adds to the story. And that adds depth to your character, even if it's kind of in a negative way. You know?
So when you're rolling up your stats, just have fun with it. Think about what you can do with think about some of the extra things you can do before carrying on with the rest of your fleshing out your character. Think about what those stats really mean, how you can enrich your character using those.
Right. So. Oh, I like this. Okay. This is good. All right. So I'm excited for next time where we can learn more about where I'm going to go figure out the race, class.
Your name, all of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. All right. Well, We'll see you next time on the DnD5e Podcast. More shows coming up weekly. I know that Joe and the Ghost probably got a few. We've got some in the can. We're going to just be putting them all out there for your entertainment because we know that you're doing, well, the best you can in your own castle, in your own kingdom.
Us too, man. Us too.
Yeah. Well, if you want to hear more stuff, you can go to the Dungeon Crate Podcast. We're going to actually record another one here shortly with that. And go check us out on dungeoncrate.com if you want to get any role-playing accessories. Otherwise, keep the adventure rolling.
Keep it on, man.
Right. All right. Well, my name is Wayne.
This is Laurie.
We'll see you next time on the DnD5e Podcast. The DnD5e Podcast was produced by Wayne Brickey and brought to you by Dungeon Crate and the Lords of Adventure and War Games. For more info, head over to DnD5ePodcast.com.